Hey everyone, it's Kellen Brower here from RacerX, back again with another race examination video from Washougal, where we're going to talk about a couple things on the day. First off, this first turn crash in 250 moto number 1 that Jalek Swoll went down, and the Pro Circuit Kawasaki riders of Austin Faulkner and Jo Shimoda came with them, a couple other riders down as well. And this kind of started with a little bit of bumping with RJ Hampshire, and Shimoda just kind of loses the bike from underneath of him. Then Faulkner goes over top of him, and then you can see the bike flipping right there is actually Shimoda, and Shimoda actually gets hit by the bike right there. You can kind of see right there at the tail end. But another first turn crash where just a small little kind of like slide out or tip over for one rider causes this big chaos. And unfortunately for Swoll, he obviously would miss his second moto with what we believe to be a little bit of concussion symptoms, but he's mostly fine otherwise from what we understand. But I wanted to highlight Jo Shimoda here because he was obviously down in the first corner, and I was kind of standing right by it when it happened. And for a little bit, it looked like he may have a shoulder injury, like a broken collarbone or something. He gets up though, goes back to the mechanics area. They work on the bike. They get things kind of untwisted because the bike was pretty mangled up. And then eventually he continues on and kind of gets into the mix with the lead group. Here he is right in front of Mumford and Jett Lawrence, about halfway through the moto, putting in really good lap times. And I wanted to highlight it because unfortunately for his case, it was kind of a little too late, I guess, because he was the first rider a lap down by the end of the moto, obviously, but he didn't quite get up to the points. This is him down in 24th, so he didn't score any points, but he ran great laps, and to come up from a bad crash in the first turn like that, gridded out the entire moto and still finish. Props to Jo Shimoda there. Let's talk about Justin Cooper and Jeremy Martin battling in the second 250 moto, which would eventually maybe kind of decide the overall a little bit. Justin Cooper was still going to be in a position with Jeremy Martin winning the moto, but Cooper didn't want to let J-Mart go. He wanted really badly to go 1-1 on the day, maximize his points haul, and basically just ride better. He's been talking a lot about riding better throughout both motos and actually getting the results that he feels like he deserves in this class. But J-Mart was so crafty with some of his line choices to make this pass into the lead before the finish line jump here about halfway through the moto. But as we know, late in the moto, Justin Cooper trying to run down Jeremy Martin would actually have a big off, and shout out to JZZZ2158 on Instagram for footage of this crash because we didn't see it on TV. But it's actually quite easy to see what happened here, and Cooper basically said in the post-race press conference that he hit a little notch that he didn't realize was there. So you can see as he wheelies right here, the rear end kicks out to the right side. It hits the top of that jump, kicks back to the left, and then he rodeos the bike. And this is actually a big one. You can see Cooper going down all the way in right there. So lucky to not get hurt worse in that situation. I want to remind everybody that this video is presented by OnX Off-Road. Nowhere to go with the #1 off-road GPS app. Access 400,000 plus miles of trails and roads, open dates, and public lands. Download the OnX Off-Road app today. All right, real quick, wanted to talk about Hunter Lawrence's fall late in 250 Moto 2 here as he slides down, coming into the shadows out of the back section. And talked to Hunter Lawrence before this, and he said that this would be his first trip to Washougal, and he was a little bit kind of interested to see how it would play with the shadows and how the soil feels. And this is a situation that sometimes people run into at Washougal when you're coming out of a very lit area into the shadows and you can't quite see a notch or a rut or something like this. So you can see Lawrence coming in here, and he starts to lose the rear end, but I think he gets a little cross-rutted as well, and you can't see the ruts obviously from this angle, but I think that this is something that just tends to happen when you have these changing conditions, the changing light to shadow and dark and stuff like that. So Lawrence caught out a little bit right there, but I wanted to spend a lot of time talking about this section of the racetrack and the last two motos of the day and how it kind of shaped up. So first off, let's talk about Jett Lawrence going outside to in here on RJ Hampshire. Then he comes into this corner, he pushes to the outside of this corner here, waits for Hampshire to go through the rut, crosses back over, ends up on the outside here, squares it off, and then basically just goes to the exit of the corner, or tries to at least, ahead of Hampshire, and then leads into the next section so he can make the pass. Now, Eli Tomac figured out this line late in 450 Moto 2, but it may have figured it out a little bit too late. He was trying to find different lines to take to get around Sexton, finally figures out the line that Jett was using, goes outside to in, then jumps to the outside of the corner here. Sexton goes to the inside, Tomac crosses back over, and then he cuts back up along the inside right here, but doesn't quite just make the pass yet. Sexton holds him off right here with 3 minutes to go in the second 450 moto. So 2 minutes later, same spot. Tomac does pretty much the exact same thing, pushes into the inside of the corner here, finds this little notch to bank off of, then charges to the outside a little bit harder, stays on the gas, squares back off, goes to the outside into this turn, and then cuts it back off and basically just beats Sexton to the punch there and makes the pass into second place. But if he had passed him a lap earlier, maybe he gets to Ferrandis a little bit quicker, and when he gets to this point on the last lap of the race, he's not quite close enough. You can see he's still trying to make up time all the way through these couple of corners, and when he squares off Ferrandis to try to make this pass happen again, Ferrandis is already there on the exit. So for Tomac, it was just a little too late, and what could have been had he made that pass on Sexton a lap prior, or maybe even figured out that line a few laps before, like Jett had figured out to get around Hampshire. But Ferrandis takes the win in the second moto. The big winner on the day, though, because Ferrandis was able to hold off that charge from Eli Tomac, was Chase Sexton. Sexton going 1-3 on the day for his first overall win of the season, and kind of another wrench in the plans for the lead group. Obviously, Roczen had a bad day. Ferrandis had a decent day, but another winner up there to make things interesting moving into the second half of this championship. And if we have more guys like Sexton that can break through and start winning motos and maybe even winning races, it'll be interesting to see whether or not Ferrandis can continue to click off consistent finishes like he has down the stretch as we head into this 2-week break before we're back at Unadilla in mid-August.